Thanks for tuning into the 6Three podcast. I'm your host, Joel, with my co-hosts Isaiah and Ben. Welcome back to episode 48, just a guess. Threw that number up in the air. Playoffs, guys. Do you think any of the spots are going to change where if the season ended today to the end of the season, do you think any playoff positions change?
I mean, the only ones I would be interested in looking at would probably be like NFC East. Still, I think that could still flip around a little bit, but I think it's pretty well established at this point. Ravens with a big win last night. That was nice. I think I picked that too, by the way.
We did.
But yeah, I think it's pretty well established at this point. I think this week gave us a lot of clarity. Positioning in the playoffs, who seeding and stuff could change, but I think it's pretty well set. Other than I would say NFC East, I think has got a good chance to flip around.
Yeah, and
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that I don't know. I think the NFC East is pretty much like I think Washington beating the Steelers kind of sealed that up for them. Like, I think both of Washington and the Giants are going to win one or two more games. And I don't think the Giants really take it over on the football team. The only one I'm looking at is kind of that 7 seed in the AFC with the Dolphins and the Ravens are tied at 8-5.
Yeah.
The Ravens have an easy schedule left. Jaguars, Giants, Bengals. Those are probably 3 wins if they play competently. Which, as long as Lamar Jackson doesn't have to go off and take a poop like he did last game, they should be able to do. Whereas the Dolphins have the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Bills. And I could see them winning those games, and I could see them also losing every single one of them. So yeah. I think the Ravens will jump the Dolphins for that last spot. I honestly think the Dolphins lose to the Patriots and to the Bills. But other than that, I think I don't see the Vikings or the Bears taking the 7th seed from the Cardinals. There might be some jumping around between some of the wild card teams. But yeah, I think it's pretty much set in stone at what it's looking like right now. I think the 1 seeds aren't going to change. I think the 2 seeds aren't going to change.
Yeah.
So I think the wild card teams could shift around a little bit. But I think, besides the Ravens getting in, I don't think anything else is going to change.
Yeah, the Cardinals hold their own destiny in their own hands right now because I think they have the 7th seed, but there's 2 NFC North teams that are going to put up a scrappy little fight. The Bears, if they have that play calling for the rest of the year, along with their defense, they might make a jump if Arizona slips a game and they beat Minnesota this week too. The Bears could take that 7th seed, but everything has to go their way from here on out. The AFC, I think, it's just the Raiders and Dolphins that are probably going to be the biggest threats to Baltimore losing the 7th seed. But I think the Ravens proved yesterday that they can hang. So
and the Cardinals don't really have an easy schedule left either. They have the Eagles, who, if they're still on a little bit of fire from having Jalen Hurts, and they could make that a tough game. The 49ers could have some people returning from injury. Who knows at this point? It looks like they might not, but they're always a good, well-coached team. And then you have the Rams in the end of the season at LA, so that might be a loss too. So if they slip up in one of those first 2 games against the Eagles or 49ers and then lose to the Rams, as they probably are predicted to do so, I could see probably the Vikings more than the Bears slipping in, but I don't know. It's still going to be – they need them to lose one of these next 2 games.
Well, I think with the Bears too, I mean, they're kind of feeling like the Lions did after the Lions beat the Bears, I think, just because their offense finally looked somewhat competent in that game. But I think we just need to take that with a grain of salt if you're a Bears fan or if you're paying attention to the Bears, just because the Texans are just a mess, complete mess. I mean, and Texans were a mess on offense, which made their defense be even worse. So I wouldn't count on that being how the Bears offense looks next week even. So I don't really see them sneaking in. I could see more with the Vikings, but I really don't think that they're gonna be able to pull it off either. I just think it is gonna be pretty set in stone for the most part overall.
Yeah.
Do you guys think the Rams and the Seahawks are tied right now? Did they split this regular season?
I think so.
Oh no, they still have yet to play. So the Rams are currently hold the tiebreaker. They have the Jets and then at Seattle and then home against the Cardinals. And the Seahawks have at Washington against the Rams and then against the 49ers. Do you see the Seahawks taking that division from them, or do you think it's going to stay the way it is?
I mean, I think it's pretty much up to that game. So I would anticipate, you said Seattle has what? Washington, LA, and then Niners?
49ers, yeah.
So I anticipate they'll probably beat the football team. And obviously they play each other. And then I would probably pick them against the 49ers as well right now. Could be a tough game, actually. The 49ers are – none of their games that they're playing, they're not really getting blown out too much. They're a tough team. And then you got on the Rams side, they play the Jets. That's a win. Obviously, they play each other then. And who do they finish with?
Rams finished with Cardinals. Seattle with 49ers.
Rams
that
probably
game's even tougher than the Seahawks 49ers.
Yeah, it'd be tougher than the Seahawks there. But I really, honestly, if I'm sitting here right now, I would probably pick, the Rams and the Seahawks to win two of the games that they don't play each other. So I really think it comes down to that game, and I'm not sure. I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised if the Rams pull it out. I mean, they're showing that they're really well coached. I think that's a big thing, and they're just better than we all. I think they're better than all of us, but Isaiah thought they were going to be.
Well, I mean, they're even better right now than Isaiah. So Isaiah said they're going to have 6.
Oh, for sure.
But
I mean, they're just. I don't know.
I think my most optimistic, I said they were going to be 8-8.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they've overcame a lot of those even the highest of expectations. They broke their ceiling. Yeah. Let's just say that.
And I think, I don't know, when I look at the Rams, I'm and what they do, I'm not that impressed any other games. Nothing that they do is flashy necessarily. It's not a couple years ago when they're in the Super Bowl and they had a bunch of good receivers running around. Although they're still doing pretty well with what they have, but it's not flashy. So I look at them on paper and I'm they can't be good, but they're finding a way. I would not be surprised if they win all 3 of those games. I really wouldn't.
For sure. No,
the Rams played probably the best game in the regular season in the last 5 years, 2 years ago when they played the Chiefs, and that game was 54-51. That's probably the best game in the last 5 years in the regular season. So, but yeah, I think the Rams are a different team. And I think, like you said, that has to come down to coaching, because still on paper, regardless of what anyone says, they have a couple of superstars maybe. And if that, they have one superstar, right? Aaron Donald's their only superstar.
One for sure. Yeah, one for sure.
And then they have a bunch of guys that are pretty good, especially in the offensive side of the ball, with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and Jared Goff is competent. They have a pretty good offensive line this year. Yep. I think the offensive line has exceeded expectations. That helps. And then what the Aaron Donald effect is, they're getting pass rush. Mm-hmm. So that always helps. If you win in the trenches, whether it's defensive line or offensive line, you're going to have success. And they found success on both sides of the football in that respect. So I think the Rams are a better team, and I agree with Ben. I think it's going to come down to that game, but I think the Rams probably win that game if I had to make a pick today.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The Seahawks just look
inconsistent.
They'll play such a good game, and then they'll look really disheveled the next game. And it's just really weird to just see that. Bet on them against a team like the Rams. And what is that play? I think they win their first playoff game. Depends on who it's against. But I think they might be slotted actually better off in the 5 seed, because that would mean they play the NFC East team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that means the Bucks have to slip up. I don't think the Bucks are going to really slip up either. The Bucks played pretty well the other day, and right now it looks like the third
Yeah.
seed. The third seed is going to be the NFC West, which is probably the Rams, and then the sixth seed is also probably NFC West right there, whether it's the Cardinals or the Seahawks.
Could be. Yeah.
So they're going to play each other round one, and that's another matchup. Can the Rams win all three against the Seahawks? Is another question though, and they still could win that. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat a division opponent twice in a year, none less 3 times in a year.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yes.
And those games, whenever they play, second time around, and then if they happen to play third time around, those games just get ugly because both teams know exactly what the other team does. They've got them scouted to a team. So I don't know. I mean, I think this just goes to show, I think the playoffs itself are pretty well set in stone, like we've all just talked about. But overall, I think there could be a lot of movement within that seeding. Depending on what happens. But I think this week definitely gave us a lot of clarity on that. And because I think going into this week, there were a lot of teams that were like, all right, take the Patriots, for example. If the Patriots went out and just dominated again or played really well like they did against the Chargers, we probably could have sat there and been like, all right, they might find a way to squeeze themselves in. I know we talked about the Lions ad nauseum, but let's say they had beaten the Packers, then it's like, oh crap, okay. There were a handful of teams just like that this past week that I think just played themselves out of it now, which is normal at this point of the year.
Right. Well, and to crush all of Joel's crazy hopes and dreams from last episode, the Lions just did what they do and got beat by the Packers, and now we just want them to put Matthew Stafford on the IR, even though he's not gonna. Just keep him out of the games and lose, go 5-11, please.
Yeah, I'd be all right with that at this point.
I'm okay with that too, as well.
Yes.
As long as DeAndre Swift and Kenny Galladay can still go off for me for fantasy.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, I don't have any other players on fantasy.
Do either of them still even play?
Swift played last week, but Galladay's still. You never know with that hip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hip's a tricky injury, especially for receivers with route running.
And how beat up he makes himself get every single game to make a ridiculous catch because he doesn't know how to create separation. But I'm gonna read off. Yeah, I'm gonna read off the stats of the week here, and then we'll talk about the Lions' new hires today and advisors. Derrick Henry now has 4 career games with 200 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, which breaks a tie with Hall of Famers Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, and LaDainian Tomlinson for the most in NFL history. And he's still got 3 or 4 years left, you think, right?
At least. Yeah, he might even have a few more than that.
After he beat up the Jaguars this past week in his career, he's got 10 games against the Jaguars in his career. Over 1,000 rushing yards, 150 receiving yards, and 12 total touchdowns against the Jaguars in 10 games. He is a Jaguar killer.
Yes.
Poacher. Jonathan Taylor has reached 20-plus miles per hour on 5 touches this season, which is the most of any running back. Now,
I think he was especially early on in his career at Wisconsin, they're like, oh, he's a big back, he's more of a power guy. But that last year at Wisconsin, he slimmed way down, started catching the ball more, and the dude can fly. I mean, he is fast, and he's still not small at all. So yeah, I mean,
his acceleration is still lower probably on the spectrum, but his downfield speed, once he gets moving, he's tough to catch.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to catch him once he, breaks into the secondary. It's running in a straight line. So,
Patrick Mahomes has 2,309 pass yards in his last 6 games. And so according to Elias Sports, that's the most in any 6-game span in NFL history. The previous record was 2,276 by Drew Brees in the 2012-13 seasons.
Okay.
Mahomes is good at football.
He is pretty talented. The teams
struggled with pass a little bit. He threw 3 interceptions.
Right. I feel like you should get an honor, a half a win if you pick off Patrick Mahomes 3 times in one game.
Yeah.
They should get if they're in a tiebreaker situation with another team, that should be the tiebreaker.
How many times
picked off Mahomes 3 times?
Which, speaking of that, Patrick Mahomes threw 3 picks versus the Dolphins. It's only the second time he's thrown 3 picks in his career. The last time was November 19, 2018 versus the Rams, but he also threw 6 touchdowns in that game, and that was the 54-51 shootout loss.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Right. Weren't all 3 of those, at least 2 of those interceptions were like in the last couple minutes, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. No, they were just chucking the ball up. I mean, that
Yeah.
was.
They're all tired. Just trying to make it happen.
I mean, there's the Mahomes game I'll never forget is when he was playing against Baker Mayfield in college.
Oh, yeah. Texas Tech versus Oklahoma.
Yeah, and the game was like 75-50 or something stupid. Mahomes had like 890 yards of total offense by himself. I mean, it was. I'm gonna
Big 12 football for you.
I mean, I'm
looking it up for you.
It's the stupidest stat line I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Patrick Mahomes had 734 passing yards and 5 touchdowns, and 85 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns.
Sheesh.
He was 52 for 88.
88 passes?
88 passes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, there's some names in this game. So Kiki QT was the leading receiver for Texas Tech with 172 yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield was 27 for 36 with 545 yards and 7 touchdowns. Joe Mixon had 263 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And Dede Westbrook had 202 receiving yards.
NFL lost. Dede was supposed to be good.
He was.
He was good for a season.
Yeah, right. Then the Jaguars just got too deep at receiver. That was the problem.
Right. Yeah.
Baker Mayfield had 15 yards per pass.
That's
88
nuts. Pass attempts. Some guys. You know how many games it would take a Michigan quarterback to throw 88 passes? Like
at least 3. At 3
8 games.
At least
8 games.
They're throwing 10, maybe 11 per.
Sheesh. So the team with the most passes defended this season is the Titans with 70. The team with the most penalties this season is the Cardinals with 90. And the team
I can see that they're very young.
And the team that allowed the lowest passer rating this season is the Steelers with a 70.7 QBR.
Well, I mean, passers rarely get the pass off against them. So
yeah, they're always pressured.
I have a stat. Joel.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
So David Montgomery for the Chicago Bears ran for 80 yards. That one run was more yards than he had in 21 of his 27 games total. So 21 out of his 27 games, he has run for less than 80 yards. And on Sunday, he did it in one play.
Yeah, he's been good lately, though. Past 3 or 4 weeks, he's been really good.
Yeah.
They don't need Tariq Cohen anymore.
No.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I still think you keep him in for certain situations, even though he's like 5'1". But David Montgomery's, I mean, running backs can be a flash in the pan, and it is like they have to get their offense from somewhere. But he is playing good.
Yeah. J.J. Watt, still in his age and injury issues, faces the highest double team rate of any edge rusher with a positive pass rush win rate this season, with 27.8% double team rate. The only other edge rushers with win rates that are 20% or higher double team: Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett, Brandon Graham, Jadeveon Clowney, Chase Young, Khalil Mack, and Justin Houston.
I believe all of that. That makes sense.
They're all very elite.
Aaron Donald isn't on that list.
He's considered an interior lineman.
Oh, I guess, yeah, you're right.
No, he gets quadruple team. That doesn't.
Yeah, right. He didn't make this for that reason.
Everybody just blocks.
Phillip Rivers now has 15 consecutive seasons with 3,000 plus passing yards. Only Brett Favre has a longer streak with 18 seasons.
Jeez.
Do you think Phillip Rivers is going to retire?
I think he has one more year.
Yeah, I think he gives it one more go.
I think he retires.
Think so?
He signed a 2-year contract, though, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. He has almost as many consecutive 3,000-yard seasons as he has kids.
Almost. 1 or 2 short.
Yeah.
The quarterback with the highest bad throw rate with 26% bad throws is Drew Lock.
I'm not surprised.
You would be surprised then at the number 3 and 4. Carson Wentz is at 21.9. He's second, but third and fourth, third specifically, is Tom Brady at 20.5% bad throws.
Believe it, because like half his throws the first 5 weeks of the season were bad. If you look at it, so I believe that.
And then Baker Mayfield is fourth with 20.1.
And he actually had a bad beginning of the year too. So I
was gonna say, yeah, the
He's hot
first
right
half of
now,
the season for both those guys was bad.
Now these names in the lowest bad throw rate. First is Teddy Bridgewater, 12.7%.
Okay.
And then number 2 is Drew Brees, 13.1.
Okay.
Andy Dalton is third with 13.5%.
That man threw like 50 passes all year. So
Dude,
none of them go past the line of scrimmage.
Kirk Cousins is fourth with 13.7%.
Okay.
I think like Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Like if the Lions could just trade Teddy Bridgewater for Matthew Stafford, I wouldn't mind that.
I would. I think Matthew Stafford's better, but
I mean not straight up. No, not straight up. Like get something for him, but like if we got Teddy Bridgewater, like if we got rid of our franchise quarterback, but like somehow got a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Teddy Bridgewater is almost making just a little bit more than Chase Daniel, so I would not hate that.
Yeah, like I think he kind of got pooped on, but
yeah,
like just because after he got injured and like he was a backup last year, like but he, I think he's really good.
On Sunday, Michael Thomas reached 500 career receptions in his 69th game. Nice. Making him the fastest wide receiver to that mark. Previous was actually Anquan Bolden and Julio Jones in 80 games. So 11 games faster than Michael Thomas to 500 catches.
Broke the record for most receptions in a season, so that'll help.
Yeah. Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts became the first Eagles teammates to rush for 100-plus yards in the same game since Week 16 of 2013.
Huh?
That was back when the Eagles had LaShawn McCoy and Brandon Brown.
Okay. I was going to say, was it like Vic and McCoy? I was thinking it was maybe Michael Vick.
No, they had a backup. It was, I think it was Brandon Brown.
Yeah, I believe it.
But, yeah, so what else here? The Jets, they now join the company of 8 other NFL teams in history to start 0-13. 8 other teams. So they're the 9th now. Start 0-13.
I think they're going to go 0-16.
The schedule is not very nice.
I firmly believe that they are not going to win a football game. I mean,
well, and
they're
they're playing teams that want to win. Like they're playing the Rams, who need to keep winning. They're playing the Browns, who need to keep winning.
Yep.
And they're playing the Patriots, who like Bill Belichick.
He's not going to lose that game.
He is not going to lose against the Jets.
Right. Now, the funniest thing would be if like the Browns go out and like lay an egg against the Jets, just just get beat. That would just be the most Browns.
If that game was this coming Sunday, I could see it. But I think with one game in between, I think the Browns will have their heads about them. But yeah, if it was like this week,
fans would be as upset as when Corey Coleman dropped that pass to go 0-16 that year. Because that pushes them down probably to the 7th seed if the Ravens keep it going.
Yep.
Do you think the 2008 Lions could beat these Jets?
Yes.
Yes.
Those Lions showed heart at least every game, even to the end.
They were just so bad. The Jets are a worse football team. I firmly believe it. The Jets are historically bad at football.
I know Dan Orlovsky's a homer, but even he said that my 2008 Detroit Lions could beat these Jets.
I agree.
Yeah, true.
But I got 2 more here. The 49ers have the most torn ACLs since 2013 of any team. with 22 torn ACLs in the last 7 years.
You have to fire the trainer, man. You got to fire the trainer to figure something out there.
You got to launch the trainer into the sun.
That's so
get him out of this world.
22 torn ACLs. That's really
The
bad.
least amount-
22 in 7 years.
The least amount is 4 in 7 years by the Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, hire that guy. Pay him all the money if you're the Niners. Hire whoever that guy is.
It is interesting to note, though, that there are 30 teams between the Raiders and 49ers between numbers 5 and 21. So that means there's like a 16 ACL span right there.
Well, I mean, there's usually like one per team every year. But like 20.
I bet there's a bunch in like that 8 to 12 mark.
Yeah, I mean, there's one. Usually that's right around one per team per year, you know. But it's like 20. I mean, something's going wrong when you have that many.
And then the Patriots haven't had 7 losses in a season since 2002.
Isn't that Matt Castle year? They didn't have.
No, that was Tom Brady year. That was Tom Brady.
I know. Well, I know, but they remember the Matt Castle year where
They lost 6. They went 10-6 that year.
10-6 that year. Yeah. Well, all right.
That's a Belichick effect, though. 10-6.
I would have thought they would have gone at least like 9-7 that year. I know they did. They make the playoffs? No, they just missed the playoffs. So they
missed the playoffs that year. Yep. With the Dolphins and the Bills and the Jets remaining, they probably go 7-9, so they win one more. With the Jets, they probably lose the Dolphins and Bills, and then they could go 7-9. And they've never finished a regular season with a 7-9 record in their 60-year history.
Wow, it's like scoregami.
Yeah, which I also took a screenshot of scoregami because this season there have been 7 new scoregamis this year.
That's crazy. I know there was one last night.
Yep, that's why I saw a post.
Scoregami.
Basically a list of any possible score that you can have in NFL history and how many new or different scores there are.
Yeah, so last night that was the first game to ever end. What was it? 47 to
45 to 42.
47-42.
47-42. Yeah, 47-42. The first ever NFL game to end that way, which is nuts.
If you Google scoregami, it'll probably pop right up and like a grid. It'll send you like a grid of like white space means there's never been a score of that. Black is this score is not possible to get.
Yep.
And
So
then
it can't be like 1-2.
yeah, but you can have a 6-1. I saw that you can have a 6-1 score now if you return a
Yeah, so if you return if you block no, if you return is it
INT return? I thought that's 2. If you return a 2-point conversion, it's 2, right? If you block a kick,
Yeah.
return it, it's 1.
Yeah, okay, yeah, if you
No.
an extra point and return it, it's 1, right?
No, if you block an extra point and return it, it's 2. You can only get as many points as are up for grabs. So,
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so if you're kicking a extra point, your team can still get 2 points. Like if you grab the ball and run in, it's 2-point conversion. Like if you fake a kick, it's a 2-point conversion.
How do you get 1 point then?
Yeah, so 1-point safety in the NFL, the 1-point safety.
Yes, you can.
There is one.
It's a black score on this thing, I'll tell you that much.
I don't know if it's still a thing, but the 1-point safety, a team making an extra point would have to botch the play so badly they would end up in their own end zone. So basically what happens is so they would have to get it blocked, right? Get it blocked all the way back the other way.
Oh, no.
On it in their own end zone.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
They would have to fumble out of the end of their own end zone after blocking it.
Literally all the way on the other side of the field.
How does that happen?
I think, has it ever happened?
I don't think so.
I'm looking it up.
There's no way.
I want to watch the replay right now.
No, it became a thing in 2015.
Oh, it's too new. That's not going to happen in 30 years of football.
So, okay.
The Browns are too good for that to happen to them this year.
So basically,
so before 2015, if the defense got possession of the ball in an extra point or 2-point conversion, it was a dead ball.
Okay.
You couldn't get points.
Yeah.
So if you block a kick, you can't run it back.
Yeah. But basically, also, it could happen. A 1-point safety could also be, let's say somebody blocks the kick, right? You're kicking the extra point. They block it, right? The team that blocks it picks up the ball. and runs
tackled in their own end zone.
Tackled in their own end zone, that's a 1-point safety as well. So the team, technically the offensive team on that play at the beginning of that play also just gets 1 point.
So if you get a safety, if you get a safety on an extra point try
in any way, there is 1 point.
Either team, you get 1 point.
Yep.
Which is ridiculous.
There is one.
Hey, we need to move on.
Sorry, there is one that happened in college football though. Apparently,
I could see that.
Yeah.
All right, so we could chat a little bit here about the Lions. They hired Chris Spielman and Barry Sanders and Mark Hollis to advise Rod Wood, basically, who is a self-admitted non-football guy. And hopefully this helps them hire a better GM, more qualified for the job, that's more sports-minded, more analytical on maybe the people that he needs to bring in to have success. So I'm glad that they did this. Hey, they're guys that have experience not only within the Lions organization, but still around the NFL. And Barry Sanders is one of the greatest players of all time. Chris Spielman is a great analyst and also a former player and a really good player. So, and then obviously we have Hollis, who.
Well, I think Hollis just brings AD experience, so he brings the organizational side that maybe Sanders and Spielman don't necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
maybe he doesn't bring doctors in though. I don't think he gets to hire doctors.
I don't think he gets to hire any doctors. Good grief. Anyway, I like it too. I just think the key is too, especially with Sanders and Spielman, is that these guys care about the Lions. They're very, passionate about Detroit and the Lions especially. So I think that matters, because if you're just bringing in an outside source to, advise, sometimes that's good to have a third party, separate from what's going on. But I think it does matter in this situation to get some guys in there that will, that care about what's gonna happen here. And I think, I agree. It's super important. This GM hire, I think, is honestly, I don't know if it's more important than the head coach, but it's pretty darn close. Because obviously, from that comes the head coach hire. And I think obviously we've talked about how, might be more of a package deal depending on who they get, that type of thing. However, I think this is super important. So what it tells me more than anything is that the Lions care about this, and are taking it seriously. So,
yeah, Sheila's actually, it seems like she is invested into trying to make this work. And
yeah,
so that's like in her first year where she took over, she made a difficult decision of, I'm going to fire this coach and this GM. Like they didn't get it done again. And even under the first year of her watch, where you think she might have a little bit of leeway because she just got to meet these people, but no, she took care of it, did the right thing, and now they're doing their due diligence. And now, but lately the reports are, they might hire the former Texans GM Rick Smith, which again I'm not mad about. He hired Bill O'Brien, so there has to be some responsibility there. But he also, Bill O'Brien may have been Bill O'Brien could have been a good coach, just a terrible GM. And ultimately that's not bad. The reason that Rick Smith left is to take care of his ill wife.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Bill O'Brien had, like you kind of alluded to it, he had good seasons. He had good teams. I'm not 100%, saying Bill O'Brien was a complete flop. I just think he eventually ended up that way, but it wasn't at the time, of his hiring and the first few years there. And, even up until pretty much this season, I would have sat there and gone, he's a pretty good coach, good offensive mind. So I don't think that was a disaster of a hire.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work out, obviously for a bunch of reasons. But.
Yeah, no, and he made some great draft picks. He did draft DeAndre Hopkins. So,
yep.
And that was a big hit. So Rick Smith, like we were saying, Isaiah, is getting interviewed by the Lions. I think next week. So
he's I think he's my top pick for the job.
I would not hate him and Ed Dodds for the Colts. And again, for GMs that aren't currently employed with a team right now, he is my top pick. So otherwise, if you're going to do due diligence, you're still going to wait till after the season. So I would still hope that they wait till after the season to interview some of these directors, player personnel or something with other teams to see how it goes. But I do like Rick Smith and getting at least a head start and a jump on this right now to try to get as much as you can.
the other thing is I don't want them necessarily to think too far outside the box with this GM hire. I think if you're going to go outside the box and a little more off tradition, I think you should do it more with the head coach, not the GM. I think I want a guy that's been a GM, or at least have been pretty darn close. I don't want somebody. Some of these player personnel guys, sure, but I want a guy that's got experience. I don't want somebody who's just learning on the job or, hey, I'm give it a shot, type. I don't want that. That's not something that the Lions need right now. We've already had
Thomas Dimitroff. Yeah, I mean he's the former Falcons, but
I like him too.
I still think I like Rick Smith the most because, like we were just saying when you were briefly vacant there, Isaiah, we were saying that he did hire Bill O'Brien, and we can say that there has to be responsibility to be taken there. But Bill O'Brien may have just been a bad GM and a pretty decent coach.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he was just a bad GM.
Yeah,
like he just sabotaged the team. And the thing is, the reason that it's such, I think we talked about this when we were talking about the when we were talking about the candidates, is that the reason it was so tragic, but like such a big thing, is because Rick Smith had built such a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Like his last first round pick was Deshaun Watson. He picked did he pick JJ Watt?
I don't think he went that far back. I don't know if he
no,
went that far
back. But Jadeveon Clowney, like he had a lot of really good drafts.
He did draft. He might have drafted Mario. Did he draft Mario Williams even?
I remember that one. That was 2007, I think.
Okay, so he started in 2006 as GM.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was a GM for a while.
He was a GM for a long time. Yeah.
12 years.
No, so he drafted Deshaun Watson, Zach Cunningham, Deontay Foreman, JJ Watt, Brian Cushing, Glover Quinn.
Steroids, Cushing could have been really good.
Yeah, Glover Quinn, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Swearinger, who I thought
it's a good safety.
Yeah, like he just had really good drafts. Jadeveon Clowney's there. CJ Federowicz. He did draft Tom Savage, so I don't know about that, but
that means he hired Gary Kubiak in 2016, and Kubiak lasted till 2013 and had a 500 record. Then after that, they had the interim. He fired Kubiak in 2013, and then Wade Phillips coached the last three. And then Bill O'Brien came in. So really, he's only had two coaches in 12 years, which that means he doesn't have high turnover. He's hiring guys that are getting the job done.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I honestly, my top two picks are him and Dimitroff. I think, again, Dimitroff, a little bit different, but he created an incredible team that was just coaching it around. Like, again, that's what was so tragic about the Falcons, is because they have so much talent to be this bad. Like, they have way too much talent to be this bad. With Deion Jones and Julio Jones, and like Matt Ryan is a great quarterback. Getting Todd Gurley and all these other guys, and having who are their two running backs? Freeman and someone else.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman too for a little bit.
Yeah. Tevin Coleman. When it was Freeman and Coleman, like Dimitroff built great teams. They just weren't coached well. They were coached well one year.
Also pushing for Dan.
Well to the last game of that year.
Yeah.
People are really pushing to get Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator in for the Lions too. And he is a good coordinator, and he's got even coaching experience. I would not hate having Dan Quinn as D coordinator.
I wouldn't hate that. I mean, I wouldn't hate that at all. I mean, I want guys who have been there before, who have won. Especially if you're going to bring in let's say you're going to bring in a guy like Bieniemy or something like that, who hasn't been a head coach yet and is kind of be a little bit different, right? Maybe Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator as well is going to be one of those, hey, he can stabilize everything. He's going to take over the defense. He's been a head coach before, so he can help a guy like that out.
I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point. Yeah, if you don't have a coach with any head coaching experience, if they hire someone that has no experience, then they have to have coordinators that do.
Yeah, and I think, I go back to, I was listening to an interview, this has nothing to do with the Lions at all, but when Juwan Howard was hired at Michigan as their head coach, literally had never been a head coach before in his entire life, any level, right? I mean, he barely stopped being a player. And but he surrounded himself with like Phil Martelli, been a head coach for a billion years. He kept Sadi Washington, who had already been at Michigan. He hired Jay Smith, who had been a head coach everywhere in the state of Michigan pretty much up until that point. So he surrounded himself with all these different head coaches, and that makes a difference. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
from an organizational standpoint, even because when you become a head coach at any level, it's just different. It's not the same as being a coordinator or a position coach. It's way different.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, if they were going to go with like a Bieniemy or a Sala from 49ers, I would like them to get, like, you can't just go new creative people on every level. Like, you have to have those competent coordinators who know what they're doing.
Yep.
The only thing with like getting a guy who got fired as a head coach very recently is that, like, if you get any free agents that coach for him, they're going to immediately have no respect. Like,
yeah.
Obviously, there's only one team you'd have to worry about that. Like, if you're really going to look for the Falcons for a lot of free agent picks, but just saying, like, that could be a thing. Like, if you did get someone who just hated his guts, they might not come to your team because of that.
And I think that's just up to you as a
For sure.
whoever they get for GM and whoever they hire as a head coach, just take care of that. And
Yeah.
don't sign a guy or make sure that doesn't happen. So
yeah, it's a low level concern.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's try to talk a little bit of Big Ten basketball here, and then we'll get to the pick six. Obviously, it's kind of gotten kicked off already. We've kind of gotten a good taste of what to expect from some of these Big Ten teams, and players that really stand out. But what team do you guys is like a dark horse to win the conference?
Dark horse? I don't know.
Dark horse?
Like a team
So
that
I'm looking at it.
Maybe had as a middle level tier, because I think it's kind of panning out so far this season. From what I can tell, it's kind of panning out the way we expected. Like the good teams, like Iowa and Illinois and Michigan and Michigan State, they've all played pretty well.
So a team that okay. So the way I look at the Big Ten, it's kind of tiered. There are probably 5, possibly 6 teams that legitimately could duke it out for the championship. And there's probably 4 of those teams that are high level talent, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd throw Iowa up there. They're probably right now they're clicking on all cylinders. They look like the best team in the Big Ten. You got to throw Illinois up there because of their talent. Wisconsin is really, really good.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
It's going to be right there. And then you'd probably throw Michigan up there at that point right after that. And then after that, I think you tier down. You get teams like Purdue.
Did we say Rutgers?
Indiana. Rutgers is probably one step below that top tier, I think. Rutgers, I mean, they play good defense. There's just no star power there. There's nothing that moves the needle for me with that team. Really well coached. They play really, really hard. Penn State's another tier 2 team where it's like they're gonna be tough. Like they beat Virginia Tech by 20. Like they're gonna be really tough and they play tough defense. So they're tough. And then you tier down one more, and it's like the Northwesterns, the Purdue's probably in that level.
We say Minnesota, they're 6-0 right now too.
Minnesota's garbage in my opinion. From what I was watching, they just aren't very good. They've got a very good. One good player, but Marcus Carr is good. But
I was going to say there's only four 6-0 teams in the Big Ten right now with Michigan, Michigan State, and Iowa and Minnesota.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is you look at it just because of how weird this non-conference season has been. Okay, so Michigan's the only team other than last night Rutgers beat Maryland. So there's only been 2 actual Big Ten teams, Big Ten games, right?
Yeah, technically Michigan is first in the Big Ten right now.
Technically, yes. Stop the count. But so this non-conference season's been weird. Michigan played 0 anybody in the non-conference. Their only game that was going to be probably pretty decent was NC State. That got canceled. So they had to go play Toledo. So they pretty much, I mean, I could promise you Michigan would win the MAC. That's pretty much all I can say about their non-conference.
Yeah.
Like 4 MAC teams, which is great. Michigan State, they beat Duke, but Duke looks like a complete mess right now. They've certainly got a lot of pieces, but you're not quite sure what you got there. Iowa is just destroying teams left and right. They destroyed Iowa State in a rivalry game, but what are they when they play a real team? We'll probably know on Saturday. But then you look at a team like Illinois, who a lot of guys or a lot of analysts pick them to win the Big Ten. But they're so Jekyll and Hyde. They go out there and they play really well. They kick the crap out of Duke for the most part, and then they go and they lose to Missouri. Missouri might be pretty good this year, but it's like they're not consistent. They're up and down. So I don't know. There's not a whole lot of clarity with the conference right now, but I think if you're going to pick a dark horse, a team that nobody's really talking about, I think you got to probably pick Wisconsin. I don't really think they're a dark horse necessarily because I think most people think they're going to be good, but no one's talking about Wisconsin. One, because they play the most boring brand of basketball you could probably ever find, period.
They're
good at it.
There are people, though, back in November, I saw that did pick Wisconsin to win the Big Ten.
They start 5 seniors and they play like 6 or 7 seniors overall. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're all good. I mean, Demetri Trice is good. Michael Potter's a beast. They can play 2 big guys who can stretch the floor, so they can go 5 out. I mean, they're really, really tough. And they play good defense, and they play Wisconsin boring.
I was actually thinking Michigan for my dark horse.
If you're going to look at the way it looks right now, that would be a dark horse for me as well because no one's talking about them. But yeah.
Well, see, it's like picking Michigan State as a dark horse is like cheating.
Yeah, they're always good.
Yeah.
Right. I know, that's the thing. Like, if you're going to have to pick, like, not one of those top couple teams because it has to be a dark horse, but it has to still be someone who's, like, in contention. Like, yeah, it's going to be like a Rutgers or an Ohio State or Michigan. Like,
yep.
It can't be Wisconsin. It can't be
probably
the Hawkeyes. It can't be Michigan State. Really can't even be Illinois. Like, I know they have 2 losses now, but still, one was to like the number 2 team in the country.
Right.
But yeah, like I guess you're gonna have to look at like a Michigan, Ohio State, Rutgers. I mean, even Minnesota, I don't like them either. Ben, like they played, what was it, LMU?
Yep.
Like something twice, and they almost lost one of those games. Like, yeah.
I just don't think.
So I mean, you gotta, it's got to be one of those like. I guess Northwestern only has 1 loss.
So bad.
Yeah, like Indiana, Purdue, Maryland, they all are 4-2. So, I mean, but yeah, I guess like.
Well, I think the concern with Michigan, everyone kind of stands behind it, is depth. Like, do they have the depth to carry themselves far throughout the way? But if that depth ends up proving themselves, and like. The transfers like Shawnee Brown and Mike Smith. If like, obviously they have Isaiah Livers who's played well, and then Franz Wagner, and if Juwan Howard continues to develop these guys the way he has, like to me they're a team that has concerns because of their depth. But if they're developed and they all kind of blend, I think they can make a run.
The problem with Michigan is like. And it kind of came up when they played Penn State is like, okay, they are pretty deep. Like they've got interchangeable pieces, right? So like Brandon Johnson can come in and, you don't even think about him. Terrence Williams came in the last 4 minutes and he hadn't played all game and played well. Like, and Hunter Dickinson's probably Big Ten freshman of the year right now. I mean, right now I'd put him on Big Ten first team. I mean, he's just been a monster, right? But it's like, okay, there's not just one guy other than Hunter Dickinson, and I don't really think you can rely on a center anymore in college basketball to be that guy anymore. You got to have better guard play. There's not one guy that can go out there and create his own shot. And, Isaiah Livers, he's a spot-up shooter and, a offensive rebound type guy. I mean, he's a really good shooter, but he's not going to go create his own shot off the dribble. And their 2 guards, Smith and Brooks, are both 5'11". Actually, Smith is like 5'7" if you look at him. He's like 6'1" with his afro, but he's like 5'7". So, I mean, he's not going to go create his own shot. I mean, he's really not going to. And they're both good shooters, spot up, but like neither Brooks or Smith are going to create anything. The way like a Trey Burke or Nick Stauskas or like a Hardaway in the past have been able to do that. And that, and they're not, great off the ball screen like Xavier Simpson was, where they can just run pick and roll all game long. 95% of their offenses came off pick and roll last year, and they can do that. They don't have that this year. So what they're doing is they're just posting up Hunter Dickinson all game long, and playing everything off of that. But I think eventually that they're going to need something else off of. And I don't know if they're going to have that. I think they have good shooters. I think they've got a lot of good spot up shooters, but they just don't have the guy that can break the defense down off the dribble. And that Penn State exposed that. I mean, Penn State extended the defense, got up in their face, and Michigan had like 16 or 17 turnovers that game because they couldn't attack off the dribble the way they needed to attack that defense. So
yeah, no, I think Isaiah Livers has to step it up if they really want to get over that hump. Like he should be the best player on the team. Like he has the most experience. He's been there the longest, at least in the starting rotation the longest. Like if they're gonna be good, he needs to be pushing closer to 20 points a game.
The problem is he's pretty close to 20 points a game, and it's like
15.
It's like a sloppy 22.
Until this last game, I'm pretty sure he was like 19 and a half.
Sure.
So you're sitting there, you're going, oh, he's got to step up, but it's like he gets these good games where he scores 19, 20 points, but it's like it was a quiet 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then I think it also rests. And he's young, so maybe give him a pass this season. But Franz Wagner, I think he's getting the third most minutes on the team, and he needs to step up a little bit too.
Yeah.
He was there in and out of the starting rotation last year, and doing enough to have that experience. So I would like to see him push it up a little bit too.
The difference, and I agree with what you're saying, that what would put that team over the top for me would be Wagner. At the end of the year last year, he was averaging 20 points a game.
He was predicted by Sports Illustrated to be the sixth man of the year.
Yeah.
Conference.
Yeah. They were talking him up as, a top 14, 15 pick this next year in the NBA draft. The guy, physically he can do it. He's a 6'10" wing who can handle the ball and shoot. That screams NBA, right? But so far this year, it's like he doesn't quite know how to fit with the rest of the guys on the team right now. But if they can figure that out, then they'd probably be my dark horse pick. That's a homer pick, obviously a little bit, but if you're going to pick out of the Big Ten, it's kind of hard to pick a dark horse because I think there's 5 or 6 really, really good teams, and that falls off a pretty significant amount from there.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those teams that's around the 5-6 mark. If there is a dark horse, but there's not a team maybe a couple years ago or maybe the past couple seasons where no one's talking about them. They're not ranked, but they're really good. I just don't see it this year.
Well, last year, Rutgers was probably 4th in the Big Ten, I think, by the end of the year. And were they that good? Maybe not. But it's they're pushing some of these good teams, some of these really good teams in the Big Ten, and no one's talking about Rutgers. I don't think there's that team this year. I really don't.
Yeah.
So who do you think wins the Big Ten? We'll try to finish it up with here, but who do you think wins the Big Ten here?
Iowa.
Michigan State.
I'm actually going to stick with Wisconsin. I just think, like you said, with their 5 seniors that they start, rotational pieces they have that are also experienced, there's just too much experience, I think, for any other teams to kind of keep up. But yeah, I just think Iowa
in the most games because
Micah Potter and Nate Roovers, Aleem Ford. They've got plenty of guys that they can just kind of put out there on the court that know what they're doing, have been there for so long, and they're talented.
I think Iowa just has the best chance out of all those teams to not.
Luka Garza is probably he's probably going to be the player of the year in the Big Ten.
He's going to be the national player, in my opinion.
But Iowa has the least likely chance of getting games canceled out of all those top teams, and I think however this whole I know we're stick to sports and whatnot, but however this whole pandemic thing goes, if you're in the middle of the season and in a groove and all of a sudden you guys can't play games for 2 weeks, in Michigan or Madison, Wisconsin, those places that kind of dip back and forth between those lockdowns, but Iowa, which is not being locked down, they just keep rolling and they just keep playing their games, you're not going to be able to catch back up to them.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think with Iowa, they would probably be my second pick. What I worry is, shooting can come and go.
Yeah.
He might be able to shoot through pretty much anything. I mean, if you watch them, they had Bohannon for them chucked up like 18 threes by himself the other day, and made 10 of them or something stupid. So like this team might be able to shoot through pretty much anything, but shooting comes and goes. And Iowa, like I said, defense is optional for those guys. I mean, they play no defense. They're fine giving up 75, 80 points because they know they're going to score 90, 100.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if, when they go up against the Wisconsins who are going to slow the game down, and they go up against the, Michigan State's Michigan State will still run with them, but Michigan State's going to play defense and rebound. You can as much as, I hate Michigan State, Izzo is going to make them play defense and rebound. I don't know if they're going to be able to, to deal with the physicality of the Big Ten all the way through and still be able to put up 90, 100 points a game. But that, if there's any team that can do it, this team's as good offensively as I've seen in a while. I mean, and I think we're going to learn a lot on Saturday when they play Gonzaga. When they actually, they play a real team. But yeah, I would go Michigan State right now just because I think they're going to play defense.
They have
they're just going to get better.
They have so much depth too. Like the fact that they can split point guard between like three guys, like Rocket Watts, Foster Lawyer, and AJ Hoggard. Like those are three guys that can split point guard duties. And then you have Aaron Henry, Marcus Bain, Dave Brown, Josh Langford. They've got so many so many pieces that can just keep.
Joey Hauser is going to be at least second team All Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call that right now. Just because, he changes the way that team can play offense. He can stretch the floor from the 5 position, and they have not had that.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated has him as the newcomer of the year.
Even Xavier Tillman was not going to stretch the floor. He was a great pick and roll guy, but he was not going to stretch the floor. So they have not had that, and as soon as Izzo kind of figures out that rotation and tightens it down for Big Ten play, I think they're going to be pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised though if the Big Ten champion is like 13-5 in the Big Ten or something. Like they just beat.
There's a lot of talent. They're going to beat each other up.
Yeah. So I think it's going
to be similar to the Big Ten football. This year, like they just except for Ohio State, who just got away with not playing a bunch of games. Like they just beat each other up.
Big Ten football is weird though, because outside of Ohio State, we also expected Penn State, Wisconsin, and Michigan to all be pretty good this year.
Minnesota. I think everybody thought Minnesota would be pretty good.
Oh yeah, Minnesota was also up there, and then all those teams, literally except for Ohio State, have been pretty much butt. So I don't know.
They have.
Like Northwestern, Iowa. Yeah, they showed up, but like none of those guys still hold a candle to Ohio State. Like we all knew it was Ohio State, and that's the only team that's really kind of shaped up.
Yeah, I think this year, regardless, just across sports, I don't think anybody any coach should get a COVID pass necessarily, depending on how bad the season went or whatever. But at the same time, I think you kind of you got to chalk up a lot of the results this year to just a weird year.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing it across sports. Florida losing to LSU this past week was just the most ridiculous thing. They lost on the most ridiculous thing I may have ever seen. But things like that happening that just probably wouldn't have happened in a normal year, in my opinion. It's just, I just don't see that happening. And you don't see this many weird things going on in a normal year of sports. So I just think you got to chalk it up to a weird year. And hopefully, I'm just really hoping for Big Ten basketball because I think this can be a super cool year for the conference because the conference is loaded this year. And they've been loaded for a few years, but this year's way better than last year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it could be really fun if they can get all these games in and, everybody stays corona free and can just kind of handle all that. I think it could be a really fun year.
Well, God forbid, after 16 more days of this 2020, God forbid they don't add a 13th and a 14th or a 15th month of the year to keep this nonsense going. Like that's they're going to build 3 months.
Well, we got the vaccine starting to get distributed, so I'm hoping.
Well, good stuff in the Big Ten. We're going to finish the show out here with a pick 6. We're not going to do a pick 7, even though we only got 5 games in because of a cancellation last week. We'll keep it running. So we got 3 NFL games, 2 college football games, and 1 college basketball game. We'll start with the Patriots at Dolphins.
I'm going to go Patriots.
Ooh.
I don't want to, but I feel like I have to for some reason. I think Belichick finds a way to get them motivated, and they're going to win a close game. They'll have some interesting defenses dialed up to stop Miami. It's going to be an ugly game, but Patriots.
Okay, I can see that going either way, but Dolphins, I still feel like have more to play for and more to fight for right now. So I'm going to say that motivation, I think, with the Patriots pretty much knowing that they don't have a shot, they're kind of on the outside looking in. I think the Dolphins just have more to play for, more heart to put out there in the field. I'm gonna take the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins too. Cam Newton is backup quarterback, and they're not going to get it done.
We'll see if Jared Stidham's the truth.
Did you know? Here's an interesting stat.
Ooh.
Joe Flacco.
Here we go.
Joseph Flacco, who's played 4 games, has more touchdown passes than Cam Newton.
I'm not surprised. The Patriots quarterback play has been horrendous. Like possibly worst in the league. Actually,
they need to lose to get a better draft pick.
I think they should.
But again, to the Patriots' defense, literally everyone thought they would be terrible this year because they just got rid of all their pieces.
Yeah, and then they had so many opt-outs and whatnot too.
Mm-hmm. Bears at Vikings here for the second game.
I'm gonna go Vikings. I think the Bears' offensive resurgence was an anomaly, and more due to I already talked about it, but more due to the Texans' incompetence than anything else. Vikings by 10 or something like that. And I really need Dalvin Cook to go off for me for a fantasy bet.
I don't want him to show up. I'm playing Dalvin Cook this week. But it could be the battle of Derrick Henry versus the Lions, Dalvin Cook versus the Bears. I would take Derrick Henry versus the Lions because the Bears at least have a serviceable defense.
That's true. That's very true.
I'm still going to agree with you, though. I am taking the Vikings. I think they have an upper hand, and they've also got, again, I think these last couple of games when you're still at least on the window in the hunt for the playoffs, you're going to give it all you got. And the Vikings at least have one game yet on the Bears, and they're that 8 seed, so they have to win to at least try to get in that 7 spot. So I'm going to take the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings too. I think the Bears showed out really good this past week. Like they needed that to just make people in their locker room not jump off the bridge. But I just think the Vikings are a better team, especially at this point in the season. Like they are, and they're so opposite. I love that this game is happening right now because the Vikings started terrible and now we're playing good, and the Bears started incredible and now we're playing terrible. So I just think the Vikings are just a bit better of a team. I think the Bears just can't string together another game like they did last week. So we're consensus.
We are. So this one is tough for one to pick, but I think it's going to kind of depend on Drew Brees with the Chiefs at the Saints.
Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs are absolutely rolling. They got the first seed, and they're going to want to keep a handle on it. I think the Saints, I think it'll be a good game because I think the Saints want to bounce back and try to just show that they're a good team. But yeah, it does depend on Drew Brees. But even if he does play, it depends on how good he is, because I think a little bit of what Drew Brees isn't very mobile, but he does move a lot in the pocket. He steps up, he steps to the side, he moves around, he twists his body. And with breaking 17 of his ribs, if he can't do that, I just think the Chiefs are the best team in football. I think the Saints are maybe the fourth or fifth best team in football. I just think the Chiefs win.
My whole thing is, if I'm the Saints, I am not at all considering rushing Drew Brees back right now. I am doing everything I possibly can to make sure he is as healthy as possible for the playoffs here. So if there's any question whether or not he can protect himself and play well, I'm just gonna play Taysom Hill and hope for the best and hope my defense shows up and keeps us in it. So that maybe he's ready to go. I really don't know, but even if he is, and even if he's really firing on all cylinders, I still think the Chiefs are better by a decent margin even. They're just incredible right now on offense. So yeah, I'm going to go Chiefs.
Is Jameis Winston healthy, or are they just going with Taysom Hill? I forgot.
We're just riding
They're
Taysom.
just going with Taysom Hill, yeah. I know. Jameis Winston, I feel so bad for him.
I know. It's interesting that literally today, during a press conference, Sean Payton literally said that I think that Jameis Winston will be our starting quarterback when Drew Brees retires.
I think they just I don't know. I just think they like what Taysom Hill brings to the table. Like the mobility. They can be a little more creative on offense probably with him. I don't know. I mean, and maybe they're just like, hey, Jameis, just you're the future right now, or maybe in a few years or whatever. But you're just gonna sit there with a clipboard this year, I guess. I don't really know.
No, I mean, knowing Sean Payton, I think it's still going to be a college style, fight for the starting position between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. I
think Jameis is a better quarterback, though. I really do.
But Jameis Winston got LASIK eye surgery because he had such bad vision his whole life, and I just want to see if it changed anything. Like if he's really better, like if he's actually going to play.
Jameis Winston's the truth, future Hall of Famer.
I know. I just want to see it happen. Listen. He's what, 5 years younger than Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill's like old.
I mean, Taysom Hill was like 29 when he got drafted.
I know. So, if you're the Saints, you want Jameis Winston to be your starter if you have him on your team. Like he's only 20. He's
29.
Only 26.
Taysom Hill is 30 now.
Yeah, Taysom Hill is 30. But Jameis Winston is 26. He's younger. He's a better passer than Taysom Hill, even with his bad eyesight. And I just if you take a shot on Taysom Hill as the Saints, if you hand him a contract, you are going to get torched in the media, in the NFL world, by all the fans if Taysom Hill is a bust. Jameis Winston, you can give him an extension. He's not going to want a ton of money. He's going to know that. And he's going to be serviceable. So I don't know why you're playing Taysom Hill. Put the man Jameis in. Start the comeback today.
I think it's going to be harder for me to pick if Jameis was actually the starting quarterback right now. I don't trust Taysom to carry the Saints past the ridiculously talented and high-flying Chiefs right now. So I am taking the Chiefs for that reason. But gosh, if it was Jameis.
Jameis Winston.
I would think he's a better game manager. I think there's just some kind of quarterback experience that might allow him to stay in this game. And
just crazy enough to go toe to toe, throwing down the field with Patrick Mahomes for one game, not for a whole season, but for one game.
Exciting quarterback in football last year because it was either going to be a touchdown or an interception almost every time he dropped back. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like, he threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and also he threw 4 interceptions. So
yeah.
Hey, in the words of Jameis, he's the greatest quarterback of all time if he has no interceptions last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you take away the picks, I mean, he's balling.
Dude, Taysom Hill is so old, he got married in 2014. Come on,
He's
man.
also Mormon. He's also Mormon.
Well, yeah, so he went.
I know, but
here's the problem. The man went on his Mormon mission, so he didn't enroll at BYU till late, and then the guy got hurt 18 times in college, so he took 2 medical red shirts, and then he finally got drafted, and then he was pretty much a tight end.
Still wasn't as old as Brandon Weeden when he got drafted. Brandon Weeden was 28.
He was a military guy though, right? Wasn't Brandon Weeden? Was that why he wasn't? He was in the Army or something, wasn't he?
I'm trying to remember what took him so long. He wasn't a grocery store clerk, I can tell you that, but I don't remember
Oklahoma State, and he had a really good couple years there, but I think he was in the military before that, and that's why.
Did you go with the Chiefs too, Ben? I want to make sure I got that down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all going with the Chiefs.
All right, so we got 2 in a row, unanimous. Maybe we'll switch it up here. Going to college football, Oklahoma at Iowa State.
Iowa State. Matt Campbell gets it done. They're flying. They're rolling now. Oklahoma will probably put up a few points probably early. Pretty close game. Probably good game through the first half, I'd say. But I think Oklahoma makes too many mistakes. Iowa State's got a tough defense.
Brandon Whedon played professional baseball for 4 years.
That's what it was.
Right.
5 years.
That's what it was.
He graduated in 2002, and he didn't go to Oklahoma State until 2007 as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
So he was, let's see, 2011 is when he got drafted. 2012, sorry. He got drafted 2012, and he would have been 29.
Yep.
Yeah, he's 37 right now.
Sheesh.
First round pick at 29. Yikes. Okay.
It wasn't a smart pick. I can tell you that.
No.
Did not work out. So yeah, Ben went with Iowa State. I'm going to take Oklahoma. No questions asked. I'm expecting a good Oklahoma show.
I think it's stupid that Iowa State is ranked 6th, and they have 2 losses, and they have not, I don't know. I don't like them, so I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
I think
they're good. Matt Campbell is a good coach. He's looking like a good coach.
Oh man.
I think they're bums. I think they're frauds. Put Coastal Carolina in. No, Cincinnati though. I think Cincinnati should have a shot, dude.
If you're gonna pick one of the two, yeah, Cincinnati.
Let's see if Coastal Carolina beats number 19 Louisiana.
Cincinnati beat one of the teams that Iowa State lost to. Okay.
I don't know, maybe. Cincinnati plays nobody though.
Yeah, not this week.
I mean, they played 2 ranked teams, and another one next week.
That doesn't move the needle for me. Brandon Whedon was a 2nd round pick in the MLB draft. Right. Talented guy.
Talent. Clemson at Notre Dame.
Well, Clemson. Trevor Lawrence is back.
Yeah, I'm going Clemson too with Trevor Lawrence.
He would have made
They
the difference.
need this win.
Yeah, he would have made the difference in that first game. If they lose to Notre Dame again, I think they're out of the playoff though.
Well, for sure, 100%.
Yep.
Then it'll be Iowa State in because Texas A&M is going to lose to Alabama.
I think we're all
No,
going
they
to
don't play
too. I'm taking Clemson. Just the fact that Trevor Lawrence is back, I think he's going to have something to show for being cooped up on the sidelines for so long. But if it was still DJ playing quarterback for Clemson, I'd probably take Notre Dame.
Well, that's the thing though. They were 6 points and they scored 41 points against Notre Dame's defense with DJ Uyagalele or whatever his name is as their QB, and the guy had like 2 or 3 turnovers himself too. So I mean,
I still think I'd pick Clemson.
I'd probably pick Notre Dame to be different.
Yeah.
But
still Clemson. I think Clemson's going to be ready to go. I mean, Dabo's going to have them fired up.
Oh, Dabo's going to lose his mind.
Dabo's already losing his mind in the media right now. So.
Dude, he's been losing his mind for years.
There are a lot of people that do not like Dabo Swinney.
Oh, I know.
I'm not his biggest fan, but it's kind of funny.
He's a good Christian
guy. I know, but I still think he's an extremely hateable name.
I also think he's just a fake guy, so that's just where I'm
Yes.
at. He's completely 100% fake.
He's like obviously they're like contemporaries because they're coaching at the same time. But he seems like a guy who 20 years from now reads Jim Harbaugh's autobiography and is like, I'm gonna be like him. And like just way overdoes it.
Yeah, I think he's just fake. He talks such a big game. He talks the old Christian thing, which is awesome and great, but I think he's fake. That's just me.
But he's such a good coach.
He's a good coach. He also was a cheater. So it's just, yeah.
I mean, he's a better coach than who's Ohio State's coach?
Urban Meyer.
Ryan Day.
No, Brian Day. Yeah, I hope.
Day hasn't done anything. But
I can't stand him.
Yeah, I can't stand him.
They just took a big team and didn't lose it. Like that's what
He's
happened.
got a very punchable face.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Last game of the pick 6, college basketball, Iowa versus Gonzaga.
I think Iowa is going to be. I think this is going to be a super high-scoring game because neither team plays very much defense. But I think Iowa is coming up against a team that can probably score with them to an extent. So I think Gonzaga is going to win. I think it'll be in the 90s probably, maybe high 80s, and I think Gonzaga wins by 5 or 6 in the end.
I'm gonna go with Gonzaga too. I just think like Gonzaga. Obviously, it's been Gonzaga's year for like 10 years, but I think they're legit this year. I think they are. Like, I honestly think they could win a playoff or the tournament, however that looks. But I'm gonna go with that.
Well, I was hoping someone was going to pick something different, but I was going to go with Gonzaga as well. I just like.
Fine, I'll pick Iowa.
I was going to say someone's got it, right?
I'll do it. I'll pick
Someone's
Iowa.
gonna do it.
Let's do it.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means unless I could see Iowa. Here's my problem. Iowa has been so fraudulent so many times under Fran McCaffery, where they come out looking like this, and probably not this good, but they come out looking so good, and then you realize, oh, defense is a thing against good teams. And then they turn the ball over a bunch. They start missing threes, and then they go down 20 to a good team all of a sudden. It's like, oh crap, and they got to claw their way out, and they can't. So, I don't think Iowa's going to be that way this year, at least not in this game. But it really would not surprise me if Iowa ends up not as.
Switch me to Iowa. I'll take them.
Way to be the bigger man, Isaiah.
Garza is also unguardable, so I will say that he literally cannot be stopped.
Dude, I just gotta say one thing. James Harden is looking thick. he's in his first game, and he's a big boy.
Hey, he's just got to do a few wind sprints.
Glenn,
lay off the
beard.
Yeah.
Man, can't wait to talk some NBA, man.
Well, that'll be next week, guys. Tune in for Isaiah and Ben specifically because they know more about basketball than me. It's preview next week.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. That'll be the week before Christmas.
Yeah.
The week of Christmas. I'll say the week of Christmas.
Yeah. The little Christmas episode. I'll have the tree in the background again or something.
I'm not lugging the tree down here, but. Maybe I'll wear a Santa beard.
I'll have a Christmas sweater on or something.
I'll wear a Santa beard and a hat.
There you go.
I won't do anything.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
No.
Just a disappointment. No, I'll let it go because you picked Iowa and you didn't have to. But
yeah, okay. All right.
We're all set.
Luka Garza is going to have 40. Luka Garza is going to have 40, 10, and 10.
He might.
Actually. I don't believe you. But he's good. But he is good. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in this week. We will see you next Tuesday.
See you.
See ya.